still here. I told you we would be right back for you. I'm A.M. Grabelny, one of your hosts for AWS On Air. I'm joined by Marie. Marie, please tell them about you.
Hey, good to see you guys again. My name's Marie Carlton, still a manager of Partner Solutions Architecture, and I'm really excited to have our guest here today. So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Raghavara Sodabatina. I'm an enterprise solution architect based out of Boston.
For long-time viewers of AWS On Air, Raghav might look familiar. You've been with us a bunch now, Raghav. You're a regular.
Yeah, I did one in New York Summit, yes.
Yeah, and DC too. You were in DC with us.
Oh, yeah, DC, Washington, DC Summit.
You don't even remember how many times you've been on. It's great to have you back. And today we're going to be talking about security all day, basically.
All day,
but
tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, yep. But we're going to be talking with you, Raghav, about two specific AWS services that'll help you build more secure, more compliant workloads, being AWS Config and Systems Manager. But to kick us off before that, I wanted to put it into the minds of all the security practitioners out there. Kind of the enemy of security a bit is convenience, right?
Right.
It's a little hard sometimes when you're trying to work and you want to deploy something out to AWS, and your security team steps in and tells you, no, you can't do that, right? The security team doesn't do that just to be controlling. They're doing it to make things secure.
Right.
But so what's at my disposal as an AWS security practitioner to make people trying to do their jobs more automated, more easy, and I have to not step in so much?
Right, so in security we have something called GRC, right? GRC start with governance, and then risk management, and then compliance. In order to control the security, right, you have to put a governance in place. What it means governance, right? It could be policies and rules. It all depends on organization to organization. For example, to make it simple, right? Let's see if customers are using S3 bucket, there could be a policy that S3 bucket always has to be encrypted, right? If that is the case, what they can do, we have tools where they can set up the governance, right? One of the tools which we are going to talk today is AWS Config. They can go to the AWS Config and they can create a config role saying that my S3 bucket should be always encrypted, right? That is the governance kind of a rule they're going to create it. And then it comes with a dashboard where they can see whether that rule is compliant and not compliant. And then it goes to the system manager, which we'll talk about a little later.
Yeah.
Before going to that, right, I wanted to talk about the governance part of it. So this is one way of doing the governance where you can create some config rules so that your all AWS resources, whether they are compliant or non-compliant. Another thing, right, before you even create these rules and all, right, you wanted to make sure that your AWS whole environment is controlled, right? That is where we have another service called AWS Control Tower. It provides you the guardrails and everything to you, right? Based on AWS best practices. And for example, if any new account need to be created, it go to all the checks and balances. And also with AWS Control Tower, you get AWS organization where you can create a service control policies, what services a developer can launch, right? You can assign to the particular OU, right? That way you have a better governance in place. Now coming down to the risk management, right? So risk management, basically you wanted to minimize as much as risk.
Yeah.
So AWS Config, we talk about governance part where you're going to create a config role saying that, okay, my S3 bucket has to be encrypted always. Now, how to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's where, like some teams, it's very common practice, I think, on the more manual side. I cut a ticket over to the security team.
Right.
And then they provision out whatever infrastructure that I need to use, be it an S3 bucket. They make sure it's encrypted, and then maybe 3 to 6 weeks later, I have my S3 bucket, right? Like in the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and you've mentioned AWS Config throughout that description there. So for those watching at home that might not be as familiar with it, what is AWS Config, and what are some of our major use cases?
Yeah, major use cases basically, let's say if you wanted to track all of your AWS resources, history, it can provide you a lot of history, what happened to that each resource,
Okay.
right? And then, as I said, you can create a config rule for a governance kind of a thing. And then the next one is, I talked about GRC, right? Now the risk management, right? That is where you can power this config role remediations with the AWS System Manager by using automation runbook, so that you don't need to do anything manual, right? Automatically, as soon as a developer create any S3 bucket, it get auto-remediated, it will be encrypted. Even though he or she is not selecting encryption, it does auto. That's what I'm going to show the demo. So before the demo, I just wanted to complete that GRC section, right?
Yeah.
So that's where AWS Config, you can use it for governance, as for risk management, where you can use it with System Manager Runbook, where you can do the risk management so that automation can happen. If you complete all this, right, and then we have another service called AWS Audit Manager, that is for where you can generate a reports for the compliance. And AWS Config results will fed into the Audit Manager. So based on your policies and rules, you can generate the report so that you can get ready for your audit, right? So today I wanted to show some of the, as you rightly said, right, I want to talk a little bit more about AWS Config. I will show you the deck. I'm going to show the deck now. Today's demo is building continuous security and compliance with AWS Config and System Manager. Before that, I wanted to talk a little bit more about System Manager, right? System Manager is basically cloud operations kind of a tool. It's not one. It has a lot of VHS. It comes with many. If you look at here, operations management, Explorer, right? System Manager Explorer, you can look at all of your resources in a dashboard across, right? It could be a config rules, or it could be ops items. Ops item means, let's say, ops center is combination of operational item. I'll give an example. Let's say,
I think there's a ton of features and services in Systems Manager. We probably don't have time to cover all of them.
Yes.
I know we're probably only going to be really looking at automation today, because it's the way that you automatically remediate issues that stem from AWS Config rules that you've set up. So let's just focus on that one. There's a lot of
It's a lot. I just want to show the slide saying that there's a lot possible.
For sure.
Automation, what will happen, right? Automation comes with the runbooks. Runbook is nothing but like if you need to basically say that my S3 bucket need to be encrypted, or my S3 bucket need to be versioned always. That automation, that code is already there. AWS provide like automation runbooks. The good thing about automation, System Manager automation is you can also create your own custom runbooks.
Your own bash scripts, your own PowerShell scripts to run.
You can use the PowerShell script, or you can use the Python, whatever, right? So that is the power of automation, basically runbook, where you can write your own thing. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the AWS config before we get into the demo. So this is the AWS config. Like, you wanted to really look at the resources changes, all of your resources. That is where AWS config, you can go and look at it, history. 3 days back, who did what? What was happened, right? If you wanted to track down the history, that is where AWS config provide. And then, as I mentioned, right, you can use the config rules to set up the governance on your AWS resources. We are going to create a couple of config rules as a part of a demo, and then we are going to remediate it. So before getting to the demo, I just want to show how it done, right? I mean, basically, you set up the governance, and then you can do the near real-time automation, because automation runbook takes some time, right? That's the reason we are saying near real-time, right? And then this continuous compliance, right? Whatever the results, it can fed into the AWS Audit Manager so that you are ready for your compliance. This is how, let me go back. This is how it looks like when you create it. You have a config rules, and it is going to say these many number of resources are compliant and non-compliant. And before going to this is the blog I wrote. I just wanted to talk about it here. The first step is AWS config. We are going to set up AWS config rule. And then basically, you are going to use the automation workflow here, where we are going to tell to AWS config saying that, OK, use this runbook to do this. And we have two options here. We have automatic remediation. We have a manual remediation.
Yeah.
Right? Two things are there. This is the architecture. So I will go to the AWS Management Console now.
Yeah, we got like to tie it back to what we were talking about earlier too, right? Like typically a manual process that a security team reviews a ticket and comes back in and provisions out the infrastructure for you can be completely eliminated.
Everything can be automated.
And we're going to see that in just a minute. But I also like that you called out that there is manual remediation too, just in case you're not ready to completely automate. You can still use a manual remediation and have a human in the loop, so to speak, right? To come in and look for more complex things or deeper.
Yeah, for example, I'll give an example, right? S3 encryption, it must be enabled always. So you can do the auto remediation.
Right.
In case of S3 worsening, all the bucket you might need it because there is a cost involved, right? If you want to do the worsening, right?
Yeah.
That kind of a scenario where you can go for manual remediation. But still it is automation, but you can automate everything. I mean, if something need to do, right, you have to create a ITSM tool where we go to ServiceNow, and then you ask the developer to write a code and then execute that code. That code could be a Lambda function. You don't need to write any Lambda function now. Just use the automation runbook, automate everything.
I love it.
Yeah. I'm excited for this demo. And then for folks watching live, the blog post that he posted, I bet you if it's not already in the chat, it will be in the chat here shortly.
Yeah, this is the blog post.
Awesome. Well, yeah, let's see this demo. I'd love to see this in action.
Let's look the demo, right? So now we come to the AWS config here. You can create a rule here. Again, here if you see AWS managed rule, and we have different rules here. For example, if you are looking for S3 encryption, right? There is a rule already. Because I already added it, is not showing. See here, right? ACL is prohibited, right? You can select it here, and then you can go to the nest, and then you can just enable it, okay? So I'll go back to the rule because I already created to make it simple for demo.
Okay.
If you look at here, right, I created two rules here. One is S3 bucket version enable, S3 bucket server-side encrypted, right, enabled, right? So now I'll go to the server-side encryption enable. If you look at it here, right, I have this bucket. Right now there is no non-compliant, but there are a lot of compliant resources here, but I'm going to create one.
Okay.
If you look at here, right, action, right, this is what I'm saying, right, manage remediation. When you come back to the manage remediation, here, this is the option I was talking about. You have two options here, automation remediation and manual remediation. And here it is telling, this is the runbook which you are choosing here, AWS enable S3 bucket encryption. This is the runbook, we are choosing it. And then any bucket you are created, and we are going to tell the system saying that any new S3 bucket created, it is going to encrypt for you, all right? And then here, this is the automation role where you have to give the access so that it can perform on behalf of you, all right? So now what we'll do, we go to the S3 bucket, and this is the automation runbook. When it gets executed, it will show you here. But I'll go to the right to the S3 bucket. I'm going to create a bucket here. This bucket has to be a unique queue, so I'm going to put some random numbers. Something like that.
Perfect.
Hopefully it's random enough.
Yeah, hopefully this is random. I'm in California region, so I'll just use it. So if you look at it here, right, I'm not selecting any encryption here. Watch this.
Okay.
I disabled. It is not enabled, okay? I created a bucket here.
It's like a magic trick, you're like nothing up your sleeve.
I created here. Now I'm coming down to the AWS config here. And then it did not, let's see. I'll go here, reevaluate. I'm going to reevaluate here. So let's say all here.
Are you on the versioning rule instead of the other?
No.
Okay.
See, look at it. You got it.
Oh,
here.
there you
This
go.
is the bucket I created.
Perfect.
This is non-compliant. All right? It says that this is non-compliant, and then you can see the resource timelines and all. So what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to look at, again, rules here. I'm going to select this one, bucket here. And then I'll go to here. I will say reevaluate.
Okay.
All right?
There it is.
Heavy topic. Okay. So let's go to the manage. It is already automated here. I will just click on Save Changes. And then here, this is non-compliant. This is where I can do the manual remediation.
Okay.
But I really don't want to do the manual. Let's see the re-evaluation. See, now config bug, this is re-evaluated, right? It is successful here, all right? So in order to see whether it is success or not, what we do, we go to the S3 bucket again, all right? We go to the bucket here, and then here I did like, this is the random one. Now we'll go to the properties here. See here, encryption enabled.
Whoa.
I did nothing.
How did that happen?
Yeah, how did it happen? Now let's go to the system manager here, automation. Right? If you look at, there is a lot of things here. Automation here. I click on automation. Look at it here. It just happened now. See, S3 bucket, right? This is what it got executed. Behind the scene, it connected to the basically automation runbook. It all happened.
So it helps you be secure. So if you were to forget to encrypt your S3 bucket, it's gonna you just know it's gonna do it for you. Yeah.
It does automatically.
That's amazing.
So as a part of config rule, what we did, we set up governance, and as a part of risk management, we attached the AWS config rule with the system manager runbook, and it automatically remediated, right? So now let us look at the versioning also, right?
Yeah, can I ask a question real quick, Raghav?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I really, we're not supposed to pick favorites here at AWS for your favorite service, but Systems Manager is high up on the list for me. I've always loved Systems, and it's, like you said, such an expansive, like, lot of features, a lot of functions, a lot of services in there. But with automation books, it's not limited to doing things through the API. You can also do things on EC2 instances, for example,
you can do EC2 instances.
That's right.
I mean, you can have your own automation. You can write your own APIs, call them, I mean, Lambda, or you can even develop your own API by using container technology, be it a EKS or ECS. I mean, whatever works for you, right?
Yeah, but a lot of security teams are still, especially at larger companies, still managing server-based workloads in EC2. And so being able to connect in without having to SSH, using the SSM agent, and all those things are very convenient for remediating those issues as well.
Yes, we have a run command. You don't need to maintain the servers. You just put the command, it can execute on behalf of you, and you can call programmatically as well.
All right. And we've got about a minute left. Sorry, Raghav, I didn't mean to derail you, but
yeah, I mean, if you look at here, right, if you look at here, default encryption, it's already enabled. Also, bucket versioning is right. It is already enabled here. Why? Because here we have two rules, right? Within the two rules, this is bucket versioning is also enabled. If you look at here, manage remediation, this is automatic remediation. We are saying that this bucket has to be versioned as well. When we created no versioning, no encryption, it did everything automation. If customers, they are looking at it, they can look at this blog. This blog is on Cloud Operations and Migration blog. Remediate non-compliant rule with AWS System Manager Automation Runbook. They can follow step-by-step procedure. Whatever I shown, they can do it.
Raghav, Marie, thank you for joining us. And go check out Raghav's blog if you want to get started working with AWS Config and Systems Manager. We'll be right back with more from AWS On Air.